How come most startups fail, even when we have more tactics and strategies than ever before? Join the bedside chat of an entrepreneurial couple as they share what it takes to create a business with ease and in flow.
Hello everybody, welcome back to another Biz in Flow bedside chat. And you're staring at me.
What's your name?
With the craziest eyeballs. And I'm Natasha.
And I'm Jachym. There we go. You forgot that part.
You're so excited today. What got you excited, Jachym?
I don't know. You get me excited. Now, I thought we can talk today about what actually differentiates us from kind of regular coaches that are out there. Because I realized, and especially something I've been reflecting on for a few days or has come across my mind, is that, you know, people hear coaches and they all bunch them together into one kind of basket, and it's just not really true for that, you know, all the coaches are kind of the same. And so today we had an intake call with a potential client, and she asked us, well, what is different about you? And so we had to think about that and gave an answer. And would you like to share what you have shared or learned, or what you have realized through that conversation?
Well, one thing I want to say that makes or creates the coaching industry is that people live their lives, and at one point they make a big change. When they get impacted by whatever tool or method or just experience, and then suddenly they get the insight that they can help other people do the same. But the thing is that just because you experience something yourself doesn't necessarily mean that you're able to help other people to do the same thing. I mean, not by doing the same thing, I don't mean replicating the same result or the same scenario or sharing the same tool, but to really bring about the deep change that happened within you in other people. Because everyone is so different, and we have so many varying experiences. We are in different situations every single day, and to be able to actually help someone, for us, we can help someone in whatever type of suffering or problem that they find themselves in, right? Like life problems. And for some people, you know, what they have is something that they have experienced. So I just want to say that just because you have that doesn't mean that you're automatically qualified to help other people do the same.
So what is the experience that you're talking about?
Like, if someone suddenly dropped or I don't know, had a session with someone, or even on their own, maybe they use a tool like parts. What was it called? Parts, where you like speak to your younger self and you separate yourself into, like, for example, the logical one or the control freak within yourself, and then you have a tool, and then you use that, and then you overcame something, a problem that was big previously in your life. And then now you feel that you can do the same for everyone else, just because you try something on your life, on your problem, and it worked.
So then let me ask you, when in your view then someone qualifies to actually help people?
I think someone actually qualifies as a good coach is when they do not need to replicate the same method or the same scenario or the exact same thing that they went through in order to help someone else.
So when they're independent of the techniques or tools that they have used or experienced that transform their lives.
Exactly. It's as if something worked for them. Maybe they understand why, maybe not. But now they want to be a coach, and now they're shoving every single client who wants help from them through the same process, whether it fits them or not, whether it's even what they need or not. That's what they know. That's limited to what they have. So they're just going to try it, So I think that there's this level of, I don't want to say rigidity, but it's like stuck on one point. And you can't go beyond what has helped you. Like, that's the only thing you have.
Yeah, I agree. There's lots of kind of change work seems to be stuck on systems and strategies and tactics and tools trying to help people shift, and they all fundamentally miss that what is even more important is the person applying those tools and strategies and tactics and all of that. That the magic is not in them, the magic is in the practitioner, and even that is not 100% true really, because the magic is really in the client.
Yeah, that's exactly it. But when you think that you have something that you can share, you can repeat, you can shove them through, and you think that the change is going to happen that way, even though it might not fit properly, or maybe it's just not going to work because they're not you.
Absolutely. I mean, there are certain kind of things where you can have a bit of a process or whatever, and you kind of can gauge the success rate of them, like phobia cures and things like that. But the changes we are talking about, which are really deep transformational changes in people's lives where they really shift in a big way, you just can't use simple processes and think that's going to make it or not. You need to be in the moment there with the person, spontaneous, and react to what's happening.
It's like we're serving them every single moment with all that we have, with where they're at in that moment, versus having an eye on where the client should be and just dragging them there, no matter where they are.
Yeah, and that doesn't really work. I think really a big quality of our work is actually the acceptance, the softness, the compassion, and at the same time the fierceness of really helping people go through some, sometimes challenging times or sometimes challenging emotions that can come up. And giving them a guiding hand, not in the sense of I am superior to you, but I am with you. I know this, I've gone through it, I know how it feels, and you're okay.
That's a huge part of it. We're not denying the experience that the client's having.
Yeah.
We're not taking it away, or what do you call it when you're dumbing it down, like, oh, it doesn't matter, and this doesn't mean anything, what they're actually experiencing. No, it matters, because that's what they're going through right now. And what I do want to say, and this might be quite controversial, is that we aren't experts in any specific area of life. We're not an expert in relationships, nor even business, or professional life. We help everything. So in a way, I see us as experts in all of these areas. And I know that there are certain people who are, for example, pickup artists. Or people who are like, yeah, work with me, I'm the love coach or whatever. And maybe that's just the focus they want to have. But if they have chosen such a specific niche because that's the only thing that they can do and are good at, then I would really question if they are actually a coach, or if they're someone who is just like, I guess I'll throw the word out here, expert or whatever, a good practitioner in a bunch of tools, in a bunch of techniques, in a bunch of phrases that they can share with their clients so that they can get the result out there in the world. So for a pickup artist, it'll be like, oh, approach a woman this way, a tactic, say these things, a line, and make sure you dress this way, or you make sure you make them go through an emotional whatever. right? Make sure to end the conversation this way, right? So for me, that means that yes, they're an expert in that field, but are they really a coach if all they have to give are these things that you have to learn, take on, and repeat? And if you forget them or you don't do the techniques, then you're lost again. For me, that's not a coach. And that can be for love coach, that can be for professional life. Like, oh yeah, as women feel empowered, wear high-heeled shoes so that when you walk into the conference room, they can hear you coming. Well, what about you when you don't have the friggin' high-heeled shoes on? Are you still going to feel powerful? What if I pulled all those techniques, all those tactics, all those lines away from you? Well, how are you going to feel then? What change is going to happen in your professional life then? For me, that's just feeding you techniques, and they could be an expert because they could work as long as you apply them to the T and don't mess up and do it the right way. But I find being a true coach, yes, you can focus on a specific niche because you want to. Not because you don't have anything else to give the moment you take the tactics away and like nothing you actually share can apply in any other area of life. To me, that's just like, blah.
We are gonna get some heat from this one. But I agree. There's lots of coaches that just give you band-aids, really. And they don't really address the underlying problem. They are literally just band-aids. And there's, some people, there's some use in some things that, can be useful. Like some people don't have a good grounding in how to hold a conversation or how to move on in a conversation because they never really learned it. They're, for some reason, socially awkward and all of that. And there can be value in studying, conversational flow and where to take a conversation and of course, not be rigid in kind of, I need to stick to those lines, but there can be use to those kind of things. But really, when it comes to transformation, when you're actually talking about transformation, you are not talking about some small things that you're taking care of and tweaking. You're talking about a person deeply, deeply transforming some underlying patterns, not even just underlying patterns, but also drop below who they thought they were and actually connecting to the source. And this really, the impact of that is just beyond words.
Yeah, definitely is. Because you know why?
Why?
I actually love to do this in real life. I'll be like, Jachym, want to know something? You're like, what? Why do I do that? But you know why?
Why?
It's so awesome. I love it. It's really hard to put into words because the moment you actually go through deep change or transformation, everything changes.
Yeah.
You can't unsee that.
Absolutely.
Right? So everything that made sense before now doesn't make sense. No, I don't mean everything, because transformation could be, a certain part of you that suddenly unlocked itself. Doesn't mean like everything looks different. I mean, maybe your old shoes still look like old shoes to you. But it's really hard to go back to where you used to be when it's a significant change that you have made, because it just no longer makes sense. And the world and how you see everything just fits differently now.
Yep.
And it's impossible to unsee it. So you're acting differently, you're behaving differently, you're thinking differently, and you can't go back because it would feel weird. It would be like me right now acting like I don't know colors, or I don't speak English, or like, how can I unlearn how to speak English if, it's natural to me?
Yeah. And what's important to kind of realize here is that most coaches, they are working with symptoms. They're chasing symptoms. And then it's a bit like a whack-a-mole. Symptom up, whack it. Next symptom, whack it, whack it, whack it, whack it. Well, that's not going to get you very far. Again, still there can be impact and all that. By the way, I'm saying all of that because I've gone through all those different stages myself, so I know what I'm talking about.
And I want to say also something. I love the game Whack-A-Mole. It's so fun. But go on.
But you got to get to the core. You got to actually look at what's happening on a deeper level. You can't just stay on the surface. You really have to dig deeper. And by digging deeper, I don't mean with your intellect. I mean with your being, and look at what's actually happening. Because change, and this is another thing that most change workers, whether it's coaches or therapists, are completely missing. Change happens when you have an insight. It's not hard work. It's not an uphill battle. It's not a discipline. It's not about racking your brain, about past things. It's insight. It's when you see it with your whole being, when you see it with your heart, when you actually see the pattern for what it is. You get out of it. It always happens now. It doesn't happen in the future. It always happens now. And that small little spiel that I just gave you is so important, and changes the game you actually do coaching, and it makes it so much more impactful. I literally cannot say how important this whole thing is, but it takes a bit of time to explore it yourself, to actually see that it's true.
What do you think about emotions and change work?
Well, apparently you have a certain idea of direction, so just spill it out for me.
No, I'm honestly curious. Does it need to be an emotional process for change to happen? Positive or negative? Or is that totally irrelevant? I guess what
do you mean by emotions?
I guess what I'm hinting at is how if you do have a sticky part, or you actually have some form of resistance, or a belief that doesn't align with who you are in reality even, then life, as you go through it and you come across that specific topic or issue, it's going to feel icky. It's going to feel emotional. It's going to feel sticky. It's going to feel harder than it should be. And it's going to be kind of complicated. So what do emotions have to do with transformations or change work?
The question is just too vague for me that I have no clue what I should say to this.
Like, does a client, yes, it's deep work because it's deep transformation, but do they need to always go through a deeply emotional place?
No.
In order to unravel or to change that whatever thing?
No, you don't have to go and cry and be in pain and I don't know what.
Yeah, exactly, that's what I mean.
That can be part of it, and I've gone through that, and it is what it is at this point. For me, it's always been that because those emotions were pent up in me.
Oh, it's more like a whole backlog.
Exactly, it's more kind of emotions that were there in my body. They were held in my physical body, and there was a release in that sense. And that can happen, but that's not a requirement. What happens is there's an insight. A sight from within. And when you have an insight, the way you see the world changes. And when you see the world differently, your behavior changes, your thinking changes, and your behavior towards yourself changes. It really is that simple.
Can you define insight even more clearly? What do you mean by seeing something from within? Does everyone have an experience of having an insight?
Well, it's the way you learned. That you learn to walk that way. It's not something that you have to be able to verbalize. It's you learn to walk by trying things out and realizing it doesn't work that way. And insight gets you closer to reality, really. So you fall over, you hit your nose, you realize, well, that doesn't work. So you try it differently. Insight is the unit of change, really. And so as you have evolved, as you have changed, you had insights along the way. So it's an inborn thing. It's not something that you need to acquire. It's not something that you hone. Without insight, you wouldn't know how to speak, you wouldn't know how to write, you wouldn't know how to walk, you wouldn't know how to do anything, really. And so there's a few really foundational pieces that I found in change work that really make a difference in people's life, especially if you just know about it as a change worker. It makes your life so much easier. You don't have to be stuck on a technique. You don't have to try and understand whatever is going on. It makes the whole process easy and relaxed and enjoyable.
I have a word to describe, 2 words to describe insight. I'm very proud of myself.
Go ahead.
I think they're like aha moments. You're like, oh, aha, I see it now. I get it now. Oh, it clicks.
That's right.
Oh, that makes sense. Oh, yeah, now I see it.
Yeah, it can come that way, and it can come more subtle, where you don't seem to be aware of it as much.
Exactly, but that feeling of the aha moment is quite effortless. Usually you're not like, what's the answer, what's the solution, oh my problems, oh my worries. And like, I mean, your aha moments don't really come when you're like deeply drowning in it. But you're like taking a walk or you're doing whatever, and you're like, oh yeah, that's the answer. It just came out of nowhere, and then you got it, right? It just clicked, and that's how it works. And it can also happen on a subconscious level, so you don't need to know or get the ahas intellectually, but they still happen. I think that's a great way to describe insight.
I think so too.
So, today, in this episode, what did we talk about, Jachym?
We talked about insight, we talked about how we're different than other coaches, we talked about transformation versus just fixing certain issues and symptoms. We talked about, what else?
Why there are experts in certain fields, and yes, they share valuable tactics and techniques and gives you lines, but I believe that to be a true coach means that what you have to give actually meets the client in the room where they are as they are in this moment. And it's not just this, oh, it worked for me, so let me just try it on everyone and hope for the best kind of thing.
That's right. All right. Well, thank you very much for joining today's podcast. If you'd like to explore what's possible for you in actually generating deep transformational shift in your life, then you can reach out to us. Go to busyandflow.com and you can go to the contact page and then you can write us. We're looking forward to hear from us. Also, if you have any questions or you would like us to cover certain things on this podcast, then let us know and we will do that.
Have a good night, everybody.
Good night.
And we'll talk to you tomorrow.
Goodbye.